But first, on point tonight, sometimes you hear something that you actually can't believe. You have to fact check it yourself many times. And once you do, it is so searing, it makes your blood boil. But if one thing, just one thing, explains how upside down America is right now, consider this. The U.S. Army is telling soldiers who cannot feed their families to go on food stamps. It would be bad enough if soldiers who couldn't feed their families were on food stamps. That happened. We reported on it. It's terrible. It'd be bad enough if the Army said they were fixing it but weren't doing it quickly enough. But that's not the case. The Army is saying, thanks for signing up. Thanks for offering to trade your life for your country's. But we cannot pay you enough. The American people will not pay you enough to feed your families. I'm not talking about Russian troops going hungry or the Taliban not feeding their soldiers. This is people who put on the uniform of the United States to defend all of us. Inflation is now so bad, Congress is so dysfunctional, that the average American soldier cannot afford to feed his family. So what are we doing? Well, today, President Biden visited Detroit to talk about creating union jobs installing electric car charging stations. If we can't pay our soldiers enough to feed their families, why are we talking about electric cars? Of course, the president's fine to use the military as props, like the Marines in his speech about MAGA extremism a couple of weeks ago. But being president, being commander-in-chief, is a lot more than about laying a wreath at the tomb of the unknown on Memorial Day. This is not specific to President Biden. This problem goes back to President Trump, and it goes back to President Obama. The job of the commander-in-chief, first and foremost, has to be about taking care of those that protect all of us. We're not taking care of them. Of course, the president wouldn't say this. No president has. President Obama didn't, President Trump didn't, and President Biden won't say it as well. President Biden led that up to Sergeant Major of the Army Michael Grinston. He wrote a letter to the enlisted ranks acknowledging soldiers struggling to feed their families. This is what the letter said. SNAP is a U.S. government program that provides benefits to eligible low-income individuals and families via an electronic benefits transfer card that can be used like a debit card to purchase eligible food in authorized retail stores. This is the Army Sergeant Major in his suggestion to service members who can't feed their families. He says they may be eligible to determine qualification. Don't go see your commander in the Army. No, the Army won't help you with this. Go visit the SNAP website or call the SNAP information line. The 1-800 number is provided. Of course, it's not the Sergeant Major's fault. He's just literally following orders. It's his soldiers are suffering. This probably pains him more than anybody else. He's just trying to help. But think about that. We as a country pay soldiers so little they qualify as low-income individuals. Inflation right now is so high that men and women fighting in war zones wonder if their families can eat. But don't worry. We have electric car charging stations built by union electricians. Think about this. There are right now people wearing the U.S. uniform, wearing the American flag, delivering weapons, say, to Ukraine. Americans are giving billions of dollars of weapons to Ukraine. The soldiers who are delivering them are worried about putting food on the table for their family. As we said, presidents of both parties don't care much about military pay. Their domestic priorities are more important than dealing with soldiers' pay. Although it's now becoming a bigger problem because we can't recruit soldiers into the military. Literally, it's the worst it's been since Vietnam. Nobody is volunteering. We should not wonder why. Who in their right mind would risk their life for a job where leadership tells you to go on food stamps? It is, of course, a testament to our soldiers that they do it anyway. That's patriotism. But we are not repaying their bravery. We are literally sending them to food pantries and then off to war. There's words for that: betrayal, disgrace. You fill them in. That's on point tonight. Charles Williams here, more than 30 years as a naval officer, retired as an admiral from the Navy, and now helps families at the Armed Forces YMCA. Admiral, we're glad to have you. Am I overstating the problem here?
Well, I'm not sure about that, Leland, but first and foremost, I want to thank you for having me here tonight and giving us the opportunity to talk about this very important subject. I think, Armed Services YMCA has been at the forefront of working through and toward food security, food support for our military families for several years. I would tell you that in the last 3 years during COVID, or since COVID started, we've delivered almost 4 million pounds of food to about 75,000 families through 22 delivery sites on 53 different military installations, and we continue to do
Admiral,
that.
there's no question you guys are doing the Lord's work, and we had Admiral French on, the leader of your organization, when this first happened, when it was when the story was members of the Army and the armed services on food stamps, which we thought was a problem. And you look at the income of an Army soldier. Private E1, $22,000. Private first class, $26,000. Staff sergeant, a lot of these guys are with families, 8 years of experience, they're making $46,000. I'm wondering if it should come as a surprise to us that people aren't signing up when they can make that driving a FedEx truck.
That's an interesting question. I'm not really sure if it's a surprise or not, but we've had recruiting challenges in years past, and we've gotten through those through some innovative methods, and we've figured that out as those years have gone by. And I'm very confident that we'll figure that out again here. I think the military is doing everything they can to support their families.
This is not the fault of the U.S. military. It's the fault of our elected leaders who aren't paying them enough. It's pretty simple here. Why people don't have food. We said in the intro that this wasn't partisan. Am I right in that this is sort of both parties, both administrations from both parties have failed to pay the military in a way that keeps up with how America is in terms of cost to live?
Well, I think that's especially important in this inflationary environment that we're in right now. And that's part of the point that Sergeant Major Grinston has made. I'm very happy to see that we're looking at a 4.3% pay increase in the next National Defense Authorization Act. I think there is more that can be done. And the 4.3% is definitely progress, but it's not enough to make up for some years past. And it's not enough to make up for this particular inflationary.
Yeah, no. If you think about it, food's up 13.5%, the most that it's been up since the early 80s. Rent is up almost 7%. There's a lot of young soldiers who are renting. The list goes on. Real quick, is this a problem that we're taking the U.S. military and those that swear to protect us for granted?
I don't think I would put it that way, honestly.
Okay.
First and foremost, I would tell you that I think it's a shame any American is going to find themselves food insecure and on food stamps or using.
Well, I agree with you. I think it's different though, right? I mean, there's a reason we're doing this story. If you've got members people are signing up to serve and they're in that condition. Admiral, it's good to see you, sir. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.